So one of my biggest bugbears, and something that I've seen time and time again with various cases that I've covered, is when someone gets half the information and then they put out misinformation based on that, or if someone starts a rumour and puts out misinformation based on that rumour. Because these things grow legs really, really quickly, and all of a sudden people are repeating these things that they've heard, and people start to believe it is fact, and then it reaches a point where nobody actually knows where it came from and they think that it must actually be the truth. Classic example, when I was covering the Madeline Soto case, I had people coming into my comment section time after time telling me that Jennifer Soto, the mother of Madeline Soto, had stolen $84,000 in loans, COVID loans, that she had fraudulently applied for and never had to pay back. And I traced this down to a long video done by a YouTube creator who had basically looked up the name Jennifer Soto in these COVID loans and saw that there were, I think, 5, 6, 7 listings there, added them all up, came up with this total of 84,000, but never actually had a closer look at the database, because had she done so, she would have discovered that absolutely none of those Jennifer Sotos who took out COVID loans were the same Jennifer Soto who was the mother of Madeline Soto. Not a single one of them actually even lived in Florida. So along with the frustration of people putting out half the information or putting out rumours that then become solidified by people spreading them, the other thing that annoys me, two things actually. One is if people intentionally leave out information in order to push their point of view. So if they are putting forward an idea and there's something that's going to negate their idea completely. Now, I've had times when I've been working on a video and then something's clicked for me and I've realised that actually this one thing negates my entire theory, and I've just completely gotten rid of the video, even if it's like 4 or 5 hours worth of work. If I find something that negates my theory that I'm putting forward, then I'm not going to put that video out. I would rather delete it and start afresh on something new than put out misinformation. So it frustrates me when I see someone who has created a video to push an opinion, chosen to leave out a crucial bit of information, and even admits in the comments section that, yeah, they left that bit of information out deliberately. It's also important as a content creator to be open to hearing what other people have to say in the comments that may actually be different from what you have just put forward in your video. I actually appreciate it when people take the time to really think things through and they put forward a well thought out argument that calls into question something that I have put out in a video. It's, an educated debate, and that is a good thing. I don't appreciate it when people come into my comments section and tell me I'm stupid and I don't know anything and, that sort of thing. That's not the same. But when someone says, look, this is what I believe and this is why I believe it, and they come forward with a reasonable argument to explain that, then it allows me to have a look at other possibilities. And, we're not going to get anywhere if we are stuck on our own theories and not willing to listen to what others have to say. And I'll come back to that shortly. So in this video, I want to address a video or a short that's been put out by another creator that for me is somewhat problematic. But I'm going to backtrack first and explain my process in terms of when I'm putting out ideas. Basically, if I am listening to audio and I hear something that grabs me, and I want to do a video on it, then I'm going to research the F out of that one thing. I'm going to look for every other bit of audio that is going to either confirm that or that is going to refute that. I look for contradictions. If it's something that needs a bit of research online, I will do that. If it's something that needs me to look at documents and look for particular parts in documents, I will do that. So by the time you get this finished product of a video, you know that I have basically gone through a major research process before I put it out. I don't just sit there, come up with a theory, and then tell you that theory if I can't back it up solidly. And when I am doing my research, if I come across something that negates my theory, it goes out the window. If I come across something that maybe doesn't quite negate my theory but calls it into question, I will present that within the video and say, well, you could see it this way. And I always scrutinise any ideas that I'm putting forward to make sure that they are logical, to make sure that there's not something that I'm overlooking that is going to prove it to be an illogical idea. So, it's got to fit within that frame of being simple. In other words, I'm not making a leap from a little bit of information to something else. I am using that information to inform me. So this YouTube short that I want to address here is discussing the Kobakid Pass. But the idea that is being put forward just is not logical. It doesn't fit. And this person who has put it forward has actually intentionally left out information, or perhaps was unaware of the information and claims they intentionally left out information when people pointed it out in the comments section. I made a comment on their video trying to offer some clarification, and they deleted my comment. So rather than sitting back and allow this theory to turn into something that grows legs and suddenly everyone's talking about it when it is not based in solid research, I want to discuss it here in this video. I will just say I have altered the audio in this video, but all I have done is pull out all the pauses in between what they were saying and sped it up a little bit. And I think there's probably one bit that's not overly relevant that I pulled out. So I have shortened it in terms of I've taken out multiple pauses and I've sped it up just a little bit. So I'm going to play this little clip for you. I will be stopping at a few points to point a few things out though.
The warrant requests did detail they were looking for electronic records from companies in Montreal and Toronto and Halifax. And there is a Natasha working in a company in Halifax, but there's a base there in Halifax, and there's also a base up here in Amherst.
Now this individual is referring to this Natasha Haywood who put a tip in to the RCMP, and they're basically saying that they've tracked down a Natasha Haywood who works in those locations. But here's the first thing that needs to be pointed out here. These electronic records that are being sought, the locations listed, the locations that he just mentioned, are actually locations of head offices, the locations that are basically where they need to contact to get the whatever it is that they have in terms of electronic records that they are trying to get. It is not a location where they believe something occurred. So connecting this Natasha person to a location or a city that simply has a head office in it where RCMP have requested digital records really doesn't achieve anything. They're not after any sort of surveillance on this tipster in Halifax.
And the RCMP had a warrant request for here. The Cobequid Pass Toll Plaza on specific dates. And just to me, it could be a coincidence that this person has a work base up the road here, heading for the New Brunswick border in Amherst, as well as Halifax. Could be just a major rabbit hole. Like, it's been 3 months now since Natasha Haywood came out with her witness account, and she had her boys with her. Just gives it more weight. But I'm thinking the whole time, did the RCMP actually, by some mistake, leave that witness account in the documents when there was 700 tips plus, and they just left one in?
Okay, so just to clarify for anyone who may be uncertain, if you put in a tip and say you have a sighting of missing children, the RCMP have got enough investigating to do. They're not going to turn around and investigate you. They are going to accept that tip, they're going to question you over that tip, and then they are going to decide whether or not to follow through. So this notion that, well, okay, they have these record requests for Halifax, which happens to be where Natasha Haywood, and we don't even know if it's connected to the same person, where, and he hasn't shown the records either to, you can still show a name connected with a business without really, giving away too much. So straight there's no receipts, just saying she works in Halifax. Okay, but have you made the connection between this Natasha Haywood who works in Halifax and the one that made the tip? Can you place her in the vicinity of Gairloch Road at any point in time? Because if she works in Halifax, what is going to have her all the way over in Gairloch Road? If you have found this woman who works in Halifax, you probably want to figure out where she lives. I don't think she's going to commute to Halifax every day from Lansdowne Station. But as I said, the requests for records from a location in Halifax is to do with things like the surveillance from Dollarama or something like that. It is a head office for one of the places where they were seen on the Thursday, where the RCMP are trying to get video footage to confirm the information that they have. So it's irrelevant. Doesn't matter where this Natasha Haywood works, because the only relevance she has is that she put in a tip, and they're not going to be searching to find out any information on her. As for the suggestion that they are checking the Cobequid Pass to see if this Natasha woman had travelled along it, he's basically trying to infer here that this Natasha woman put the tip forward because she kidnapped the children and she's trying to deflect. This is simply a unfounded, baseless theory. And putting forward the notion of them checking the Cobequid Pass because she has to go through there to get to Halifax where she works. Well, like I said, you can't link this Natasha Haywood to the one that works in Halifax to the one that made the tip. And if you're saying that she works in 2 locations, perhaps you're actually looking at 2 separate Natasha Haywoods. Both are common names, Natasha and Haywood. So I'm pretty certain that if you were to look it up, you would probably find that there are several Natasha Haywoods in Canada. So that is the first problem with this theory. Now, apparently this creator is more worthy than me because he didn't delete her comment. So, Hidden in the Fog made the comment that I think the police were looking at that past in connection with Cody Sullivan, as a witness claimed to have seen him at a hotel in New Brunswick with the kids. And this creator's response was, yes, I left out the Cody info on purpose, well spotted. So you knew that they were looking at the past in connection with Cody, but you left that information out because it was going to completely blow your theory to smithereens. This is so problematic for me. Like I said, if you're putting forward a theory and you come across something that basically negates your theory, then you throw it out and you start again. You don't put that information out in a video and leave out the part that's going to negate your theory. So on the right, you have someone made quite a positive comment here. Thorough in your analysis. Avoid overlooking critical information. And their response was, thanks, I do try sometimes. Even this time I do leave out info to focus on the point that I'm trying to highlight. Yes, but the information you left out negated the point that you are trying to highlight. And then he is now on the left-hand side saying that he thinks the RCMP can't identify the car that she claimed to have seen, so he's now suspicious of her story. This is why I'm thinking Natasha's story is suspicious. Basically, it looked like this Natasha lady made up a story to deflect attention off herself. So I think the point of this video is that he's trying to claim that the RCMP are investigating this Natasha because they think she made it all up to deflect from herself. Okay, so none of this holds water. None of this is based on any solid factual information other than bits of information that have been twisted to suit the narrative. The request for information from Halifax is because that is a head office that contains all the surveillance for images for multiple businesses, like multiple businesses in the chain. The Natasha Haywood, unless you can link this one that works in Halifax and the one that works in Amherst to Lansdowne Station in some way, then you don't run with that theory because it could well be a completely different person. And if you've heard that the Coburg Pass surveillance footage was because of Cody Sullivan, then you probably want to check on that. And if that is the case, throw your entire theory out. So here's how we can completely negate this Natasha theory. So first of all, I'm going to read part of a document. This is the document number 87 in the ones that have been released. And this is the one that is actually requesting footage. So the RCMP requires access to or copies of the records indicated in the following list for records for the following times. Video records, yada yada yada, at the Coburg Pass showing vehicles drivers leaving Nova Scotia from May 1st, 2025 at 2:25 p.m. to May 3rd, 2025 at 3 a.m. So you can see at the top of the screen there, I've just clicked on it again so that you can see the document name. So it says 2025-087. And that is, and you can see there, it's the same thing. This is in a different part in the document, but it is the same thing. The following records are authorised to be accessed. Video records, including closed-circuit television footage for the following Coburg Pass. Okay, moving on. You can see at the top of the screen that this is still the same document, 2025-087, and if you have a look where the signatures are, solemnly affirmed before me on this, the 28th day of May. Keep that in your mind for just a moment. On May 31st, 2025, Sergeant Stanton and Constable Ford took a statement from Natasha Haywood, who called the office to report she'd seen 2 children in the area of Lansdowne on May 2nd, 2025. That's all I need to read to you. Note the date there, May 31st. Natasha Haywood came forward after the request was made for footage from Coburg Pass. So the footage from Coburg Pass, even if it wasn't connected to Cody Sullivan, is definitely not connected to Natasha Haywood. Because basically, they hadn't even heard from this woman when they requested the footage from Coburg Pass. Now, this is still from the document regarding Coburg Pass, and if you're going to do a video where you are putting forward a theory about why they wanted the footage, then you probably need to actually research it and look at the document. So, we're talking about Cody Sullivan here, and you can see this. I'm going to go down, I'll just go from the top line, but from the beginning of the sentence. Police went to his residence and spoke to him around 2:50 a.m. on May 3rd. He said he'd not picked up the children. I believe video surveillance from Coburg Pass for the time frame requested will assist in independently verifying Cody Sullivan's statements to police and corroborate the children not being taken to New Brunswick through the Coburg Pass during the requested time frame. So right there, the document shows you that is why they were making the request. Yes, there probably is a reason why that information about that particular tip was left in that document, why it wasn't redacted. But I can assure you that it is not because they believe that she abducted the children. And it is pretty clear that that tip is a useless tip. You can tell that it does not connect with Jack and Lily. There are too many things in it that just don't match. I've mentioned this in previous videos. If you go through the documents from the Madeleine Soto case, you will see that in some of the documents there are tips left in that have no connection to the case whatsoever. Tips that were disproved or just basically didn't fit in with the timeline or locations or anything. So I don't see anything significant with this being left in, other than that there is some sort of reason for it being left in, but not because it has any veracity. And certainly not because they are now investigating this Natasha Haywood because they think she kidnapped the children. I do wonder if perhaps the reason they left the name in is because the name is actually not her real name. We know that we've had Darren Geddes come forward initially as Durwood O'Grady, and interestingly enough, I did find someone connected to him with a name very, very similar to Natasha Haywood, but not the same. So maybe that is a possibility there. Maybe they left the name in there because they know that's not her real name. We don't know why that tip was left in there. But honestly, in terms of leading us to Jack and Lily, it's not going to happen.